Welcome to Pro Theologist Exclusive. Today we're going to look at a question that is becoming increasingly relevant across the Western world. Why are some women converting to Islam? Is the decision primarily spiritual, relational, cultural, ideological, emotional, or something more complex? What do female converts believe they are finding? What teachings are they being embraced? What obligations are being accepted, and how many fully understand the long-term implications of the belief system they're entering? This is not an attack on Muslims, it's not an attack on women. It is an examination of ideas, motivations, expectations, realities, freedoms, responsibilities, and consequences. The question before us is simple. What should every woman know before entering Islam?
Emily, will you share your full revert story with us?
Yes, definitely. Look, it starts from when I was a kid. I was born and raised in a Catholic environment. So I'm Tongan, Aboriginal, Australian South Sea Islander, and English. But I was raised by my Tongan side. So in Tongan culture, religion, Christianity and culture are the same thing. They go hand in hand, right? At the same time, I was also raised in an environment, in America, you would call it the projects in government housing. In England, it would be called, I forgot now. But yeah, so we call it Housing Commission here. So I was raised in that environment, which is really opposite to an Islamic environment.
No, it's not. It depends what part of the world you've ended up in as an Islamist. If you go to Palestine, I can assure you it's 10 times worse, 100,000 times worse than what she's talking about. I live in Australia, I know, and I am First Nations Lebanese. So I know the Muslim side and the Christian side very well. I know the Tongan side very well as a masonry contractor. And those people are very devout Christians. So she would have been in an environment that was relatively liberal, but well aware of Christian values and Jesus and the Lord and all that.
Complete opposite, right? Being raised in that environment, you're surrounded by drugs, alcohol, domestic violence. All of that is normal everyday occurrence for not only us, for me, myself, but for everyone around me in the community. So
Now, you can be a victim of all that, and that's terrible, but you don't have to choose to participate in it.
I was raised in that environment. My parents, they were dealing with their own demons when I was a kid. They always put a roof over our head and fed us, but...
That's like any other parent. Most parents have got their own demons to deal with, and raising kids is part of that. In some cases, they are the demons, if you can understand what I mean by that. But she's been given a fairly reasonable start. Possibly not, I would say probably not as bad as she's making out. I guess she's putting herself on the victimhood side of things to kick things off and to give credence to some vindication for how she ends up, I suppose.
They had their own demons to deal with, and me and my brother pretty much looked after each other. He's 1 year older than me, so we looked out for each other while our parents were busy partying all the time. Yeah, but I was raised I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, so I was raised in pretty much a strict Catholic environment. I attended Catholic school throughout my entire life. I've had every Catholic sacrament besides the veil. And God was the only thing that I had when I was younger, really. I read the Bible a lot as a child, which is in the environment that I grew up in, that's not normal. It's a bit strange.
Okay, so she's got what appears to be at least sound understanding or exposure to Christianity. Now let's see how she navigates that. Obviously what she's saying is she lived in a trauma culture. She turned to the Bible to try and get help. Remember, she's under trauma, trying to find a way, all the rest of it. She's got parents. I had parents that were like that. You do go through a phase of self-experimentation and whatnot. But let's just see how this goes, because for her, she turned away from Christianity. For me, I turned towards it.
Yeah, but from there, when I hit high school, just being in that environment, I actually was in a rap crew that pioneered Australian gangster rap. And our philosophy was to never lie. Everything that we put out there is all our real stories. And I was maybe 15 or 16 from that age onwards. There's a lot of music out there telling the story that we went through: drugs, crime, just being left to your own devices to survive.
Okay, so does that sound like a Christian lifestyle? And she's justifying it by saying that's what we had to do to survive. Survive what? Survive their perception of the way they saw life?
Just straight survival, right? I've been in an environment of survival my entire life where everyone's just trying to survive. I'm still in it, really.
And so are the rest of us.
In high school from there, without any proper guidance or anything,
Okay, so she's gone to high school without any proper guidance. Now, this amazes me. She just spent the last 5 minutes telling us confidently how much of a Christian upbringing that she had. Despite the dysfunction all around her, how she sat and read the Bible and was close to God, and how, unusual that was. And now all of a sudden, she's had no guidance. So that doesn't add up, does it, really?
And being in that environment, I fell into doing the wrong thing. Like I said, we weren't lying in those songs. Crime, drugs, alcohol, all of that.
Sex.
And I fell into a deep hole. I had a really bad drug addiction when I was
addiction,
probably from 17 to 22. I was getting paid in drugs to do music. I was touring the country. And
okay, so she was happy to accept that. I don't say it would have come without some kind of counsel.
From there, I was on my own. I've always been on my own. I've never had anybody to turn to or ask.
Okay, so she's contradicted herself again, because she said at the start of the interview that her brother was always there for her. So I don't know what's happened between her and him. He's probably disgusted with her.
For help or to support me. And during that time when I was a drug addict and I was also homeless for a bit, I astaghfirullah.
Okay, so she went homeless on the premise that her lifestyle didn't fit in with the values of the family. And that's what these people need to do. They need to, I can't go home and be like I am. I'll have to rough it out here where I've put myself. They put themselves in these situations. They got nobody else to blame.
I blamed Allah. I blamed Allah. I blamed God. I was angry. I was very, very angry at God.
And because she wasn't going to blame herself. Why would she blame herself? That's not going to make her accountable, is it? So I'll blame God, the God that's been there for her the whole time.
I was very angry at Shaitan. I was very angry at myself. And for a long time in my life, I didn't want to be alive. Because Allah.
No, she didn't want to be alive because that's what drugs, reckless sex, and that kind of lifestyle does. She didn't have the restraint, the personal restraint, to be able to resist it. All the rap stuff and that, she was getting to express herself there. But then after the mic gets put away and the curtain gets drawn, you've got to face all the stuff that comes with it. So she's become suicidal, subjected to drugs, sex, all the rest of it. The microphone was only a small part of it. Getting angry at Satan and all the, she should have been aware of Satan. Should have been saying to herself, hang on a sec, I know who he is. I know what's happening here. No point me blaming God. God's warned me all about this and I've defied him.
Wanted me to be here. I'm here. I was here. But yeah, I went through that as a kid. And then from there, I thought, I've got nobody. I've got nothing. It's
okay, so we've gone into a victim underlay. There's a victim underlay to this narrative now. The brother's not there anymore. The family's not there anymore. She's had a fallout with them, and that's very hard to recover, although I'm sure they would have tried. But she's carrying a lot of resentment and anger and bitterness now. But it's self-inflicted because she made these choices. She got wrapped up in the rap culture, and it's hard to find your way out of because it's all about commitment, loyalty, die on the hill, etc., etc.
Either from here, I go down the rabbit hole and eventually end up in the gutter, or I stop what I'm doing, I pull my head out, and I become a functioning member of society.
Okay, so she was in the gutter because she said she was homeless for a while. Now she's gone prodigal son or prodigal daughter and come to her senses and realised I've made the wrong choices.
Also in that same sentence, I was a professional chef throughout a lot of this time while I was drug.
Okay, so you don't just become a professional chef by doing nothing. It's an artwork in itself. And this, the interviewer's face, who I'm not going to show for privacy reasons, he just doesn't look convinced by anything she's saying or impressed.
I think that I was also a professional chef in fine dining. I did a lot of work with a lot of famous restaurants and things at the time.
So now she's gone from a rapper lost out in the middle of nowhere to having to have found time to become a professional chef. That doesn't add up. I don't say she hasn't done that, but something's not adding up.
A big juxtaposition between home life, work life, school life. They were all different. Like I'd be in a school environment or in a work environment, it'd be completely different, be supported, and then go home in a different environment again, go back to the gutter. But after all that, I decided to sort my life out. So I quit on my own. I didn't go to a facility or anything, and I got a job in the government, being an IT analyst for the government. And then
Okay, so how can you be an IT analyst if you haven't previously done training for the government? You don't just plop into an IT analyst job with the government. I know it's probably cushy and easy and nothing like what most people do. But again, we've got a great big gap. A professional chef, now we're an IT analyst.
I met a nice man that I thought that I could settle down with and who would treat me right.
She met a nice man. She's met a nice religion called Islam that she thinks she can settle down and go along with. She met a nice man that she thought she could marry and all that, right?
And I had a child with him, and I was wrong about that person. I spent 11 years in an extremely financially and emotionally abusive relationship.
I wish she had have gone a little bit deeper into that, but she's not going to.
With the father of my child, who was diagnosed with multiple disabilities at the age of 3. So he's got autism, ADHD, global developmental delay, PDA, which is persistent demand avoidance, which is really difficult. Whenever you ask him something, he doesn't want to answer it. So throughout his diagnosis process.
When you think about that, and I'm going to be very careful and sensitive here, that's exactly what her family would have faced when she decided to go down the rap tour, drugs, sex and rock and roll basically line. They would have been devastated.
process, throughout the therapy process, throughout the whole time of the 11 years, I was a single parent to a grown man and to a child who had multiple.
Okay, so what she's saying is this wonderful man that she picked turned out to be not what she wanted after all, but she still had a baby to him. Now, this happens all the time. So she's picked a man that she's decided she'll have a baby with, right? But long term, she just didn't like him. She just picked him. Now, she's picked a religion. She doesn't know the bottom of the religion yet. It's contrary to her culture. She hasn't seen that. She hasn't even touched the surface of it yet. Islam.
Multiple disabilities. That's when I started looking into Islam. When he was diagnosed and I realized that I had nobody, I had nothing, nobody to turn to. You need something you need a life raft. You need something to hang on to, a reason to continue. Of course, that was my son, but you also need some support from somewhere, because it wasn't only no help, it was people working against me. When my son was diagnosed, I was attacked a bit by not only the family, but by his dad.
That's not believable, given that we've got one of these. The first thing the family does is rise up and help. So something's not adding up there. I can understand the father. I guess she's already pushed him away and they've had a big fallout. And a lot of stress does come when you have a disabled child. I'm not denying that. And it does work on the relationship. But to sit on this channel and say that she had absolutely no support with the whole Christian network behind her, what she's basically saying is, I drove those people round the bend, I abandoned them. I've ended up in a case where I need them, but I can't turn to them because I've treated them like crap.
Not physically, but things like, he's not disabled, how dare you do this? But in order for him to get the help that he needs, I had to step out and do that against everyone's cries of, you're doing the wrong thing, really.
No, that's not convincing.
Because of that, I started looking into what the Bible says about how to raise a child, or how I should be treated in a relationship and things. And it wasn't answering the questions that I needed to be answered. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so she hasn't read that properly. She's just completely thrown the Bible under the bus. That's gone. That didn't suit.
For something, a resource that I've been looking at my whole life, the Holy Bible.
And hasn't followed one bit of it.
And it's not consoling me. So from there, I thought I might try going back to church. I did. I went back to church and I went to Hillsong because I wanted my son to be engaged. He's autistic, so it's hard to engage him in a Catholic church environment. It's quite solemn.
And I can assure you, Hillsong would have done everything in their power to do that. I'm not an ambassador of Hillsong or anything, but I do know how committed and devoted they are to the services within that organisation. And she would have had at her disposal every opportunity for that young boy to be catered for.
And you have to sit still in things. When I went
So you have to sit still in the Catholic Church. That didn't suit.
To Hillsong, I don't want to disrespect any religions or anyone preaching the word of God in their own religion. I don't want to disrespect another religion. But when I took him to Hillsong, I felt like I was so uncomfortable in there. There was just people drinking coffee sitting next to me in the church, and the person giving the sermon was just a random guy.
Okay, so from the one hand, the Catholic Church was too religious. On the other hand, Hillsong's too liberal. I mean, you're not going to win with this person. She's going to do what suits her.
God was not present, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just...
Well, that's her opinion, but I can assure you God's present everywhere. And it's what you... One of the things I learned about church, for anybody that... And I don't expect you to care, but is that it's what you make it. That's all it is. It's what you make it. And when you get tired of it, you're going to make it miserable. If you're happy with it, you're going to make it happy. But either way, call it what you will or name it what you will. It's what you make it. And if it doesn't suit, you find a place that does. Well, she's ultimately chosen Islam. But I can assure you, the same way that she chose this man that was nice and decent at the start, and the fad wore off there pretty quick, you wait till Islam gets its claws into her. She's going to be confronted with such a... she's going to think all this other stuff that she's done's a Sunday picnic compared to Islam when it manifests.
Just another box to be ticked. There was no true connection there with God. Actually, in this struggle to find some kind of spiritual baseline, I scrolling through my feed just naturally out of nowhere, Mufti Mank.
Now, when you talk about baseline, you're talking about a standard. So what she's saying is Christianity had no standard at all. It was under the baseline, whatever her baseline was. Now, the baseline has to meet her perception of what she wants religion to be at that time. Okay? Now, she's going to grandiose Islam because it suits her at this time.
Started appearing on my feed and answering all the questions that I had that I needed to know. I'm going to get emotional now. Just answering everything that I was questioning in my life. Sorry.
You're good.
Sorry.
It happens all the time. It's totally normal.
My reversion to Islam and Allah finding me and choosing me, it really, I'm so grateful.
No. Now, what's happened is she's saying that Allah found her and finding her. She spent her whole childhood with the Lord. Okay? And whatever her circumstances were, she's busted out of that, not because Christianity drove her to it or anything like that. She's just chosen to do that. She's continued to choose that Christianity's not for her. And now she's saying Allah, whoever that is, I can't seem to work out who Allah is because Muhammad didn't even know who he was, has found her. So to some respect, we've got a very unhinged person here because now the emotions come in and it's covering over any Christian conscience that she has within her core upbringing to acknowledge Allah.
And it was really Allah because I wasn't looking into Islam at that time for Mufti Menk to appear on my feed with the exact answers that I was looking for. Do you know what I mean? And from there, I was like, hang on a minute.
So it wasn't the exact answers that she possibly really needed because they were in front of her. They were the answers that she was looking for. They were the answers that suited her at that time. So this won't last.
Hang on a minute. Let's look into the Quran and see what's this all about. And from there, I was like, I really, this is for me. This is calling for me. Islam, this is for me. My whole environment is actually very against Islam. Very, very. My parents are very...
And do you think there's a good reason for that, viewers? Anybody in their right mind, do you think there is a good reason that Christians are sort of, I wouldn't go there if I were you?
And anti-Islamic. My partner at the time was, you're not a Muslim. Why would you do this? You're doing another.
Okay, so she wasn't a Muslim, but she was one thing that's for sure. She was most definitely a rebel.
Stupid thing. But at this point, I'm grasping at straws, just trying to keep my head above water. From there, everybody telling me, oh, what are you doing? I said my shahada on my own.
No, not everybody telling her what was she doing. Everybody was asking her, what are you doing? Are you blind? Unfortunately, the answer is yes.
2 years before I said it in with other sisters, and I was looking into Islam for those 2 years. I didn't want to present myself to the Ummah unless I was 100% sure. Do you know what I mean? God and religion is not something that you should jump into lightly or disrespect lightly. But
Well, she seemed to have no trouble disrespecting Christianity. Drugs, sex, rock and roll. Had no worries with that. Had no worries disrespecting herself, the family, or anybody else. Right now, all of a sudden, I've got to front up to the Muslims with a complete and total conviction that this is what I want to do. I mean, honestly, when you get under the underlays of the story, there's some.
I flip-flopping, in my opinion. I looked into it for 2 years, and I was struggling throughout that whole time in my relationship, and everything was just getting worse.
Of course it was, because we've got a person that's going down another spiral into a whole dangerous cult. The family would be on high alert. I mean, she's driven them around the bend this far. Now she's going into a dangerous cult, and that's what it is, against everything that she was raised and taught. We've got a rebel, a complete rebel that's not coming out of it. Now she's devoting herself to the ultimate rebel, Islam. But she'll regret it.
My son's needs were increasing. My health started disintegrating. It was one chronic illness.
And the reason for that is when you go against everything you know is right, at some point something's going to give.
After another that started to develop. My body was breaking down. And then I started studying for a Bachelor of Counselling. And in that online during COVID.
Now, that's the only time she's mentioned that she actually studied for something, because all of a sudden she's gone from living on the streets, sex, drugs and rock and roll, touring the country, that all of a sudden to a professional chef, and then on a IT job for the government, which isn't easy to get. And then all of a sudden she decided to study counselling, which is good, but she never mentioned any of that with the other stuff she did. Just seemed to automatically be pre-trained.
A little bit after COVID, 3 years ago now. And there was a beautiful Muslim lady there, because we tell our stories because it's a counselling class. And there was a beautiful Muslim lady there who asked me if I'd like to do my...
And I bet you there was beautiful other people there as well. But see, the narrative's tunnel vision. Okay, she set her mind on that man that she wanted to have the kid with, then he didn't suit. Christianity didn't suit, all the advice and life that offered her. Now she's got tunnel vision and she's going to be a Muslim. So everyone that's got something to do with Muslims, beautiful, wonderful, fantastic, up until she'll find out later.
Shahada with her, and I did sorry, I'm going to cry again. I did do my Shahada with her over Skype, and it was the most emotional thing that I've ever done. I was crying like this when I did it. It was the most emotional thing that I ever did, and still throughout it all, I still felt...
Because I'll tell you why it's emotional, because she's made the ultimate rebellion. She's completely abandoned everything that she was taught. It's going to be an emotional moment, all right. She's completely not only thrown everybody else under the bus up to this point, now she's thrown herself under the bus and the child as well.
felt that I wasn't deserving of Allah, I wasn't deserving of God. Still sometimes I feel that way, but I'm so grateful for that. And from those 3 years since then, I left my partner. And in the last year and a half, I have been practicing Islam in my home against everybody's wishes. Naturally from that.
Hang on a sec. So, see, this is where it doesn't add up. She said that she had no support, nobody cared, she was all on her own. But now she's doing all this against everybody's wishes. So she's had this support, all right. She's just rejected it.
My son has also learnt how to do salah, how to pray, and he's naturally also gravitated towards Islam, even though I have actively been teaching him Catholicism, because that's, like I said earlier, his culture. And
oh, now the interviewer's face is gone. Hang on a minute. So I can't show you his face, but it's gone, uh-oh, and her head's dropped and she's started this part of the... I don't think she should have done this in front of the Islamists.
Christianity are one and the same thing. In order to teach him about his culture, he needs to know about Christianity, how to...
Now, in Palestine or over in the Muslim countries, she'd be executed for that, because that's betrayal. You can't have your feet on both sides of the fence in Islam.
How to go to church and do those things.
Oh, you should see the interviewer's face now. Uh-oh.
He was more interested in learning how to prostrate and memorize Al-Fatiha. Yeah, I'm still teaching him Christianity because that's what his family want. But yeah. Okay,
so now we've gone again. Just to see how the narrative doesn't add up. There's no support and all this and that, and nobody's there, and I'm all on my own. But at the same time, the family's in the background and they care. They actually cared. They cared all along. But what I call it, viewers? Opposite directional dysfunction disorder. Opposite directional dysfunction disorder. It's a disorder. She had everything at her disposal, but couldn't find a way of embracing it.
He's made his choice. But yeah, that's pretty much my story.
Watching that interview was not about judging individuals. It was about examining decisions. Every major belief system carries consequences. Every worldwide view shapes identity. Every ideology influences relationships, family, authority, freedom, morality, and the decision and direction of a person's life. And the most important question is not whether a conversation feels right in the moment. The most important question is whether it remains right after examination. Before embracing any belief system, study it carefully. Don't just say, I read the thing for a week or 2 years or whatever. Understand the full destination of where that's going to lead you. Read its sources, understand its teachings, examine its expectations, consider its long-term implications, and never surrender your ability to ask questions that are difficult, because truth does not fear scrutiny. I'm Dr. JWA. Thank you for joining me on Pro Theologist Exclusive.